Welcome to Hidden Squidz Gaming. Hello there everyone, today I'm going to do my review of character classes. We're going to start off with the Leper. I will proceed to do them throughout the next couple of months because there is 18, so it'll take a while to do all of them the depth I want to do. Let's just do a little overview of who the Leper is. The Leper's main role is mostly damage. He does have other abilities that could kind of count as support or utility, but he really excels in honestly the Chop, Hugh, and Revenge abilities we'll review. Those allow him to really decimate anybody in the front two rows. He also has an ability called Intimidate, which allows him to venture into that back row occasionally for more of a utility role rather than damage. A small background on him: if you go to the guild, you can see that the Leper is a ruined man, a warrior, and a poet. The Leper is most effective when given a turn to focus himself before raising his massive blade. When he swings, it is all or nothing, crushing blows and massive damage or the empty whistling of a glancing blow. He's entirely self-efficient, drawing strength from his life of trauma and able to channel into heals, protection, or unrelenting fury. Honestly, it's a pretty good description, the whole part of either crushing blows, massive damage, or just missing, because we all know, at least if you've played the game, the Leper's accuracy is by far one of the lowest in the game, if not the lowest in the game, and we'll see that as we review his abilities. My overall opinion before we get started: I think a Leper is a great hero. I definitely think you should at least have 1 to 2 in your lineup. Anything above 2 might be excessive. I think I do at moments because I have a weird liking for them, and I like guys with big blades, so make fun of me as you will. The first ability we're going to review is Chop. It's going to be at level 5. Every ability we review on all the characters will always be at level 5, so you can see the maximum effectiveness you can look forwards to. That being said, Chop is just a standard attack, first 2 rows. You can use it in to hit the other first 2 rows. Its accuracy is only 95, and this is where we get to that point where we said that, you know, it's either big hit or you miss, because 95, that's not even to 100 yet, so if an enemy has like 20, 30 dodge, which isn't unreasonably high, you're already down to like a 70% chance to hit. I think Chop is an absolutely necessary ability. It's one of your main damage abilities. There is Hugh, but if you would have a couple other abilities on, he'd be like this weird tank, and maybe that's how you like him, but he's definitely really good for damage, and I would put him on with that. Hugh. Hugh is an interesting ability because it can be really useful, but it's also kind of bad in a way. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to try to avoid saying skills are bad because I believe most skills can work in certain situations, so I don't want to say that they're never going to be used. I've used Hugh a lot, but recently I've been taking it off, and I mean that in about like past 5 months. The reason why I've been taking Hugh off is the accuracy doesn't get any better for the 50% damage reduction. What Hugh can be good for is hitting an enemy and clearing a body, or hitting an enemy that's protecting an enemy, so you can hit both, you know, and do damage to both rather than just hitting the guy who's protecting. That's pretty good. Also, Hugh can be good if you have a lot of damage increases and the 50% damage doesn't really affect the overall damage you're going to do. Like when I run into the cove, the pelagic piranhas, when there's only 4 of them, I like to use Hugh because if he goes last and all the other people are injured, he can possibly 2-shot 2 of them. Purge. Purge is honestly an ability I really never used. Not because I think the ability itself is bad, I think it's because it's the main role of the Lepers to do damage or to either self-sustain himself. So the only time I could really see Purge being useful is if you have a party that doesn't have any DOT or low critical chances and the bodies tend to amass in the front row, because obviously that's where he accelerates in his damage. I could maybe see it being useful, and also the knockback and the self-buff of 5 accuracy could be slightly useful. I just think Revenge is the better ability, allows you a higher chance to critically strike, which would automatically clear a body, so you don't have that issue. Purge could also be good in possibly dungeons where there's a large creature in front, and if the body dies, it leaves behind, like, I think some can leave behind over 30 HP on a corpse. That's a lot to get to. That could be 2 turns of attacking, or you could just Purge, clear it, and then be done with it. Other than that, as I said, I've really never used Purge much because the Leper has, I would say, better abilities. Not that Purge is bad, it's just I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones you can put on. Revenge. Revenge is probably an ability you should always put on if you're going to have them as a main damage role. I see situations where you could have Revenge off if you want it, and you would never miss out on it. Revenge does take a turn to use, so if you always just want to be going first, you may never use Revenge. I think Revenge is great for boss fights and all that, so if you do a regular run, you could maybe put on Chop, Hugh, and we'll get to some other abilities you could put on instead of this. You could even put on Purge, which we just talked about. But the 35% damage increase, the 11% critical, that 15 accuracy, and that's the big thing, because that's what the Leper needs. So you go from 95 accuracy to Chop to 110. Now you have like an 80 to 85% chance to hit, rather than that awkward 70% range. The 25% damage taken and the minus 10 dodge, Leper doesn't have really high dodge to begin with, so minusing 10 dodge really only assures he'll be hit all the time rather than dodging 1 out of 10 attacks. I don't notice too big of a difference when I do that. Obviously, I almost never dodge when he does it, but not to say that I notice him dodging a lot outside of Revenge. The 25% damage taken increase really isn't that bad because he has over 60 health, which means you're going to be just fine. Withstand. Withstand is an ability I never really used, and once again, it's not to say that the ability itself is bad, it's just more of that possibly defensive ability or prepping for a long fight ability. Because the 30% protection, and if you get a trinket or two, you could have the Leper feasibly at 40 or 50% protection within the first turn, and also all of his resistances go up, which means you're not even going to get DOT'd out. The only thing you might be weary about is you mark yourself, but that's not too bad because then you can actually have everyone focus him. And then honestly with 40 to 50% protection, depending on the trinkets you put on, he's not going to get blighted most likely. He's not going to get bleed. He's probably not going to, he's not going to move at all. He is going to be just a solid rock in the front row. So this may not be a bad thing for a boss fight if you want it to be. Solemnity is a really good ability. It's 10 HP. Minus 7 stress, therefore he can heal himself and reduce his own stress, which is amazing because he's really not ever going to dodge, and if your healer's too busy healing other people, he can say, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself, you guys do what you need to do. It's just a great ability. I almost always have it on because you never know if stress targets are going to focus him the whole time, or if he just going to take some crunching 20 to 30 hits, but also some guy in the back gets hit for 30 but they don't have any way to self-heal. He's just a great way to just say, you know what, I can pretty much take care of everything on my own as long as you guys can eventually kill off that back row, because that's something we'll talk about in the pros and weakness section. Intimidate. Intimidate slowly became an ability I almost always kept on. And it's not really because of the minus speed or the damage reduction, those are just all very useful things to have. But it's definitely the bypassing stealth and the increasing in self speed. The mark targets, it's not great, but the +4 speed to the Leper and removing enemies from stealth is really useful. The speed is also beneficial to subtracting. The damage not so much depending on the character you put on, because often back row characters are one of two things. They're either the Fusiliers, where reducing damage could be good on the, the grape shots they do, or the shrapnel blast, whatever they call it, they're called. They hit the whole party, so reducing that by 33% may not be so bad. But really, it's the de-stealthing part that removes their high critical chance and all that. So just like the de-stealth enemies, increase his own speed, so he doesn't always have to go last. And the accuracy is actually a base of 115, which is significantly higher than his others. That's 20 more, which means you have a lot better chance to hit with Intimidate. So you don't have to worry about missing those de-stealth chances most of the time. I've been taking this one instead of Hugh recently because I like to keep my Leper always in position 1. So he's always in range of Intimidation. Just one final review. Often, and these abilities can change, but how I usually set up my Leper is we'll go to Chop, then I'll usually put on Revenge, Solemnity, and then Intimidate. And my rationale for that is Chop is obviously very good for deciding between the first two. I keep Revenge on just in case I need to just get some of that extra damage in there for higher HP enemies, and I have like a lot of stuns or high sustain, so I can kind of get away with taking a turn just to boost up. Obviously Solemnity is there, so I can increase my HP and reduce stress. And as I said, Intimidate's in there to de-stealth, also to possibly make enemies in the back slower, and also just to give them more speed. Things you could possibly do is if you don't think you'll Revenge during a regular dungeon run, you may take off Revenge for maybe the Hugh ability, or Withstand if you're feeling it. I just want to highlight again, that Purge isn't necessarily a bad ability. I just believe for the base accuracy of 105, it's not the greatest. I understand you can get yourself a buff of 5 AC. If that self buff was possibly like 10 to 15, it may not be a bad thing, because you could knock back the front row guy 3 spaces, bringing other weaker units forward, and then you would have the accuracy to hit them next turn. But only having 100 accuracy on chop and trying to hit someone with 30 dodge is still a little iffy in my book. The final pros and cons list of a Leper is, obviously, he has massive damage. He actually has a rather wide use of utility for being a massive damage dealer. The cons of him is he doesn't really dodge a lot, and he can't really effectively kill rows 3 and 4. Obviously, Purge can try to push position 3 into 2, but position 4 will always be out of his reach for massive damage. Let me know what your thoughts on the Leper are. He certainly has his uses, and he can certainly be frustrating when he just keeps missing those higher dodge individuals at all stages of the game. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe below.